An ally of Mujtaba Khamenei has issued a chilling warning to Arab states seen as close partners of US President Donald Trump. Yemen's Houthi rebels have warned Gulf countries against joining what they describe as Washington's growing economic war against Iran. The Houthis have condemned Trump's sanctions on Iran as a psychological war aimed at increasing pressure on the Iranian people. The rebel group has hinted that states joining the sanctions campaign could face consequences, raising fears of a major new regional attack. Houthi Deputy Foreign Minister Abdulwahid Abu Raz issued a warning to Middle Eastern countries on August 24, urging them not to assist with enforcing US sanctions against Iran. Abu Raz said regional governments should avoid participating in Washington's sanctions campaign, which seeks to increase economic pressure on Tehran. He alleged that the measures form part of a psychological war directed against the Iranian people. The Houthi official further claimed that the United States adopted sanctions after the failure of its military option against Iran. Abu Raz warned that countries across the region should not become instruments for enforcing what he described as unjust US measures against Tehran. His remarks came as Iranian officials also dismissed and mocked President Donald Trump's new sanctions drive against Iran. Trump left furious as Iran laughs off new US sanctions and dismisses Washington's latest economic threats as big talk. Iran mocks Trump's economic war and declares Mujtaba's allies will ignore Washington's pressure and continue trading with Tehran. The US threatens Iran's trade partners with sanctions, but China refuses to back down despite growing pressure from Washington. Kalibaf takes aim at America's economic power, arguing that repeated sanction threats are losing their impact on Iran and its partners. Iran's parliament speaker dismissed US threats to punish Tehran's trade partners, saying the warnings would not force countries to abandon Iran. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said Iran's trading partners had privately assured Tehran that they would not be deterred by Washington sanctions threats. Ghalibaf claimed the US economy had already suffered from more than 6 months of pressure against Iran and could not sustain further restrictions. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said, and I quote, "Americans know that no one buys their bombast. The United States is not in an economic position to further restrict its relations with other countries. Iran's trading partners, both in the media and through messages sent to us, have made it clear that they don't take these statements into account anywhere." Unquote. Iranian government spokesperson Fatma Mohajirani acknowledged that the latest economic pressure was creating serious difficulties inside the country. Mohajirani said the government and President Masoud Pezeshkian would guide Iran through the latest round of economic pressure. She said Tehran would rely on what she described as wisdom and resolve, while maintaining national unity against US pressure.
They have made every effort during this period. They have tried to test the resolve of the Iranian people and the country's officials, and they have failed every time. Apparently, they have now decided to try another failure. We have long been expecting these days and were well aware of the plans they had. The government has a 2-year plan and is fully prepared and has been prepared for these developments. The people have genuinely suffered a great deal. We fully understand that. We fully understand the inflation that has been imposed on the people and the measures they have taken since last year. It is not at all the case that we say these actions have had no impact. We see ourselves as sharing the people's hardship, and we understand what inflation means. We understand what currency pressure means. We understand what shortages mean. But the government's entire effort has been to prevent their desperate attempts to cut off our financial and trade lifelines. Naturally, they want to wage economic terrorism against us, and we have our own tools as well. We know how to play this game. This time, they should not think our response will be purely defensive and that we will only defend ourselves. They should also expect us to go on the offensive. The era of a unipolar world is over. As you have seen, 2 of the world's major countries rejected these new sanctions and this new plan, and refused to go along with them. We are almost certain that many other countries, whether officially or unofficially, will also refuse to accept them, and, God willing, they will fail.
Today, at President Trump's direction, the United States Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers. In the Second World War, D-Day marked the historic beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its positions, including those in third countries. Today, in that same spirit, we are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. Iran's fanatics devote themselves to death to America and seek nuclear weapons to do just that. They have murdered and maimed more of our citizens and service members than any other terrorist regime on earth. And they have been at war against America, their neighbors in the Gulf, and much of the world for 47 years. President Trump has taken action that his predecessors have long deferred. And under his leadership, America is no longer managing the Iranian threat. We are ending it. Our great armed forces have laid the groundwork for achieving the President's objective of preventing Iran from ever obtaining nuclear weapons. They have shown America's resolve to finally end this threat. And the strength of America's economy under President Trump allows us to wage this sustained financial operation alongside the might of our military. Iran now faces a very clear choice with only two paths before them: complete global isolation and a subsistence economy, or a path back to normalcy with an opportunity to rejoin the global economy. Today, we are launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime. Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. We are enforcing a zero leakage approach. There will be no minimal breathing space for the regime to rebuild its capacity to inflict terror against America and the world. The final refuge of this regime is the mistaken conclusion of nations that still finance the Iranian threat in the hopes of evading it. It is no longer acceptable to operate in the gray spaces of this conflict. Countries cannot claim they are blind to enabling this activity. Iran's enablers purchase, transport its petroleum. They facilitate the flow of its finances through exchange houses and free trade zones. They welcome Iran's flights and maintain registries on its behalf. They turn a blind eye to seaborne fuel transfers and overland transits. They condone illicit use of their banks, all the while concealing the extent of their complicity. The President is making phone calls to world leaders with specific requests to cease their interactions with the regime. We are already seeing results. Over the weekend, comments from Iranian leadership clearly acknowledged the effect of this campaign, and nations that facilitate any interactions with the regime should quickly heed our message. Those who stand with the United States will reap the rewards of our partnership. Those who tether themselves to the Iranian regime should expect to share in the isolation of a withering regime. Teams from Treasury, State, and the U.S. military are now meeting with their global counterparts to tell them that the United States expects action. Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities. For example, every branch of Bank Melay must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the US dollar system. The clock just started ticking. The new sectoral sanctions determinations issued today target 5 of Iran's most vital lifelines that it exploits in other countries: digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. These measures broaden secondary sanctions risk for anyone foolish enough to continue conducting business with this regime, and will accelerate the speed with we pursue them. As I speak, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control is also sanctioning over 60 entities, individuals, and vessels around the world that enable the Iranian regime to procure illicit nuclear and missile technology, conduct cyber operations, and generate oil revenue. This is a sustained campaign to collapse every last option for Iran. Let there be no ambiguity as to the position of the United States. An economic engagement of any kind with this murderous regime will expose those responsible to the full reach of American power. For decades, this regime has drawn strength from a calculus that regards Iranian retaliation as certain and American enforcement as negotiable. Under President Trump, that era is over. To the ordinary soldiers supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or are supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people. And to those who enable Tehran, do not discount the cost of testing Washington's resolve. No nation should expect to enjoy the rewards of our system while helping those who seek to destroy it. It is now a time for world leaders to make a decision between prosperity and isolation, peace and terror, America and Iran. The campaign we begin today will gather force with every day that follows, and it will not end until this regime stands alone.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now. Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.